Before we start, knock on wood. Did you do it? Even a little tap? Maybe just thought about doing it? Now, here's the weird part. You have no idea why. We knock on wood so we don't jinx ourselves. We avoid cracks in the sidewalk. We throw salt over our shoulder. We hold our breath near graves. Billions of people doing these things every day, and most of us can't explain why. But our ancestors, they had very specific reasons rooted in fear, in plague, in religious paranoia, in death so common it shaped daily behavior. These weren't cute traditions, they were survival strategies, psychological armor in a world that felt random, cruel, and uncontrollable. And somehow the rituals survived. Today, we're diving into the strange, dark, and occasionally hilarious origins of everyday superstitions and what they reveal about our desperate need to feel in control. Trust me, this gets weird. Let's start with the most common one. You say something good, I haven't been sick all year, and your hand starts searching, looking for wood like you're on a mission. Table? Wood. Knock knock. Chair? Wood. Knock knock. Desperate times? That cheap IKEA furniture counts. Knock knock knock. But here's the question. Why wood? Why not knock on metal or glass or just tap your phone? The answer goes back thousands of years to ancient Europe. Back then, people believed spirits lived inside trees, not squirrels, actual spirits, protective beings that controlled the weather and your luck. When you knocked on wood, you weren't doing some random thing. You were calling out to these spirits, like making a phone call to a tree spirit who lived in your table. Hey spirit, it's me again. I just said something good might happen. Could you make sure nothing ruins it? Thanks. Sometimes people knocked to say thank you for good luck. Other times they knocked to ask for protection from evil spirits who might hear them bragging and want to mess things up. Ancient people thought evil spirits were super petty and would absolutely sabotage you just because. The wood was like protection, like spiritual insurance. Then Christianity came along and said, okay, cool idea, but let's change it. Trees became connected to the cross of Jesus. Knocking on wood became asking Jesus for protection instead of calling tree ghosts. Same action, different God, better marketing. By the 1800s, people forgot the whole spirit thing. The religious meaning disappeared, but people kept knocking anyway. So today, you knock on wood, you just don't know who you're knocking for anymore. The spirits? Jesus? Just because? Your furniture knows. Your furniture remembers. Now let's talk about another one you probably know. A black cat crosses your path. Some of you just felt weird reading that, even though it's just words about a pretend cat. But that's how strong this superstition is. So here's the question. What did black cats do to deserve this? Spoiler, nothing. They're just cats. Goth cats. Go back 3,000 years to ancient Egypt. Black cats aren't feared, they're worshipped. They're sacred animals connected to Bastet, goddess of home and protection. If you killed one, death penalty. Egypt didn't mess around. Fast forward to medieval Europe, same animal, completely different reaction. The Catholic Church decided black cats were evil. Pope Gregory IX, this guy had a lot of opinions, said they were servants of Satan. Women who fed stray cats got accused of being witches. Europe started killing black cats, hunting them, burning them alongside women accused of witchcraft. And then something ironic happened. With all the cats gone, rats took over. They multiplied everywhere. And rats had fleas. And fleas carried the plague. The Black Death killed over 50 million people in Europe, about 1/3 of everyone alive. The animals they killed as demonic were actually the only thing that could have saved them. It's like a horror movie where you kill the hero because you think they're the monster, and then the real monster shows up. But did the superstition end after millions died? Nope. Even today, black cats in shelters get adopted less than other cats, an 800-year-old prejudice against an animal whose only crime was being black. Meanwhile, in Japan and Scotland, black cats are considered lucky. Same animal, same color, totally different meaning, which tells you everything you need to know. Superstitions aren't about cats, they're about whatever story your culture made up about cats. And Europe's was really, really bad. Here's one you probably did as a kid. Quick question, did you hold your breath past cemeteries as a kid? If yes, why? Who taught you that? And what were you protecting yourself from? Dead people are dead. You can't catch death like a cold. But ancient people thought differently. They believed breath equals life. Cemeteries equal death. Don't mix them. Ancient people believed your soul could escape through your breath. That's why many cultures had special rituals for someone's last breath. They thought it held their spirit. Now picture a cemetery, a place full of recently dead people. According to old beliefs, the air would be packed with wandering souls, spirits who hadn't moved on yet, still hanging around, still in the air. If you breathed while surrounded by all these spirits, you might breathe one in, accidentally inhale something or someone that wasn't supposed to be inside you, like swallowing a bug, but the bug is someone's dead grandma. By holding your breath, you were sealing yourself, keeping your life force inside, making sure nothing hitchhiked home with you. There was also a practical reason. Old cemeteries smelled bad, really bad. People didn't understand germs yet, but they knew something was wrong with that air. So holding your breath started as avoiding disease, then became about avoiding ghosts. Today, we understand bodies, bacteria, and smells. We know breathing near graves won't curse you, but drive past a cemetery and watch what happens. Even people who'd never admit to being superstitious will suddenly look at their phone, look away, or, yeah, they're holding their breath, just in case Great Aunt Mildred is floating around looking for a new body to haunt. Now let's get into one of the most famous ones, and it involves the Romans. A mirror slips from your hands. Time slows down. You watch it fall, and your brain is already thinking, 7 years. 7 years of bad luck. It hasn't even hit the ground yet, and you're already planning your unlucky future. The glass breaks, and logically you know it's just glass, just an accident. But that other voice, the old superstitious voice, says you broke something you shouldn't have. The Romans agreed with that voice. They believed mirrors didn't just show your face, they showed your soul, your actual spirit looking back at you. When you looked in a mirror, you were having a meeting with your own soul. Breaking a mirror meant breaking your soul. Which brings up an obvious question. Why 7 years? Why not 5? Why not 10? Why not just bad luck forever? The Romans had an explanation. They believed the human body completely renewed itself every 7 years. New cells, new skin, basically a new person every 7 years. So if you broke a mirror and damaged your soul, it would take one full cycle, 7 years, for your soul to heal and reset. It's actually pretty logical for people who thought souls lived in mirrors. Before glass mirrors, people used shiny metal, still water, anything that showed a reflection. These weren't just for checking your hair. They were used to see the future, to talk to gods. Breaking one was like smashing a spiritual phone. The Romans disappeared. Their empire fell. Their gods were forgotten. Their language changed into other languages. But this belief, this survived 2,000 years. You know mirrors are just glass and silver coating. You know your soul isn't in there. You've probably taken enough selfies to prove that. But when a mirror breaks, some part of you still counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thanks, ancient Rome. Really appreciate the lifelong worry.
Okay, this next one involves the devil. Literally. You're cooking. Your hand slips. Salt goes everywhere. And before you even think about it, your hand reaches back for the salt, grabs some, and throws it over your left shoulder. Why? What's the salt supposed to do? And why the left shoulder specifically? In ancient times, salt wasn't just for food. It was money. Roman soldiers sometimes got paid in salt. That's where we get the word salary. It kept food from going bad. It was valuable. Spilling it was like dropping cash on the floor. But the superstition is deeper than that. In Christian beliefs, salt represents purity. It can't be corrupted. Evil can't touch it. So when you spill it, you're creating a spiritual problem because the devil is standing over your left shoulder. The word sinister comes from Latin. It means left. The left side was considered the devil's side. So when you spilled pure salt, you created an opening, an invitation for evil. And the devil was right there, already in position, ready to make things worse. Your move? Blind him with salt. Throw it over your left shoulder, where the devil stands, so he can't see to mess with you. You're fighting back, cleaning up the spiritual mess you just made. Look at Da Vinci's painting, The Last Supper. Find Judas. Look in front of him. Spilled salt. A visual way of saying, this guy's about to betray everyone. Now, you don't believe the devil is watching you cook, but you still throw the salt. Because what if? What if he's there, and he's really petty about spilled salt? Better safe than sorry. Into the void it goes. The next one happens multiple times a day, and you probably don't even notice you're doing it. Someone sneezes, you, without even looking up, bless you. Automatic. You'd probably say it to a stranger. You'd definitely say it to a dog. But think about how weird this is. We don't bless people for coughing, or yawning, or burping, though honestly, some burps are impressive. So why do we bless sneezes? The answer involves plague, souls, and one very busy pope. It's the 1300s. The Black Death is killing millions of people across Europe, and one of the first signs you're sick, before the fever, before everything else, is sneezing. Pope Gregory I basically made a rule. If anyone sneezes, you say, God bless you, immediately. It wasn't being polite, it was a prayer, a desperate hope that the person wasn't about to die from plague. Gesundheit in German just means health. Same idea, different language. Please don't die from plague, Susan. But this belief goes back even further. Ancient people believed that when you sneezed, your soul left your body for a second, like a hiccup, but for your entire spirit. For just a moment, you were empty, and empty bodies can attract guests. Evil spirits or demons floating around could slip right in during that split second when your soul popped out. Saying bless you was like protection, God watching over you during your vulnerable moment. Some cultures believed the opposite, that sneezes pushed evil spirits out of your body. The blessing made sure they couldn't get back in. Either way, the message was clear. Sneezes are dangerous. Bless immediately. Today we know sneezes are just your body getting rid of dust and germs, allergies, not demons. But we still say it, still doing a ritual from people who thought your soul could just pop out. So next time someone sneezes and you bless them, just know you're providing free spiritual security. You're basically a bouncer for their soul. And finally, let's end with probably the most famous superstition of all, Friday the 13th. Even reading those words probably made some of you feel weird, even though it's just a day, just a date on a calendar. But something about it feels wrong, heavy, cursed. Buildings skip the 13th floor, like if you just pretend it doesn't exist, bad luck can't find you. We go from 12 to 14. Problem solved. We beat superstition. Airlines often skip row 13. Some won't schedule important flights on Friday the 13th. And people, normal, smart, modern people, will postpone weddings, avoid travel, and refuse to make big decisions on this day. All because of a date. So what's the problem? Why this specific combination? Let's start with 13. The number 12 shows up everywhere as complete. 12 months, 12 zodiac signs, 12 apostles, 12 hours on a clock. 12 is balanced, whole, perfect. 13 is one too many. It breaks the pattern. It's the unwanted guest at the party. Speaking of which, the Last Supper, Jesus and his 12 disciples, 13 people total. The 13th person was Judas, the traitor. Jesus got arrested that night and killed the next day, on a Friday. But there's more. Norse mythology has a similar story. 12 gods were having a feast when Loki, god of chaos and professional troublemaker, showed up uninvited as the 13th guest. The feast ended badly. Balder, the beloved god of light, got killed. So across different mythologies, 13 people at a table means someone dies. Great dinner party. Friday has its own problems. Day Jesus was killed. Some traditions say Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit on Friday, that the great flood started on Friday, that Cain killed Abel on a Friday. Friday is when things go really wrong. Put Friday and 13 together and you get a superstition so strong it has its own medical word. Paraskeviddecatrophobia, fear of Friday the 13th. Economists can actually measure this fear. Billions in lost business, less air travel, delayed surgeries, all because of two things that mean nothing separately, together mean maybe just stay in bed. And here's the thing, there's zero proof that Friday the 13th is actually unluckier than any other day. But try telling that to someone who's already decided to call in sick. Better safe than cursed by ancient stories, right? So what are superstitions really? They're not just weird habits or crazy fears or things your grandma believes. They're passed down memories, cultural handouts, thousands of years of human anxiety squeezed into tiny actions we do without thinking. When you knock on wood, you're doing what ancient pagans did when they believed spirits lived in trees. When you say bless you to someone who sneezes, you're doing what people did during the Black Death. When you avoid black cats, you're repeating what medieval witch hunters did, the same people who accidentally caused a massive plague. These aren't your beliefs, but they're in you anyway, passed down through families, through cultures, through language, through that one aunt who definitely believes and will judge you for walking under a ladder. And here's the interesting part. Even when we stop believing the old explanations, we keep doing the actions. Why? Because superstitions aren't really about the universe punishing you for breaking a mirror or the devil judging your cooking. They're about control. In a world that's random and chaotic and sometimes scary, superstitions make us feel like we can change our luck, like we have some control, like there's a guide for avoiding disaster, even if that guide was written by people who thought sneezes could eject your soul. When you knock on wood, you're not really calling tree spirits. You're reminding yourself to be grateful, to not brag, to stay humble. When you throw salt over your shoulder, you're not really fighting the devil. You're saying, I messed up, and moving on. Superstitions are mental tools wrapped in supernatural stories. And maybe that's why they've lasted so long. We stopped believing in the gods. We stopped believing in the spirits. We stopped believing souls live in mirrors. But we kept the actions. Because sometimes, in a world we can't fully control,
a small ritual makes us feel safer, more prepared, less alone. Sometimes knocking on wood just helps, even if the only thing listening is the cheap table you bought 3 years ago. And honestly, that's fine. You're not being stupid. You're not being crazy. You're just being human, like everyone before you. Like everyone who taught you to knock on wood even though they couldn't say why. So which superstitions do you do? Any weird family ones that make no sense? Let me know in the comments. And next time someone judges you for avoiding cracks in the sidewalk or throwing salt or holding your breath past a cemetery, just tell them, you're not superstitious, you're just historically informed.